right, welcome into Surviving Paradise, the podcast that takes a sometimes serious, often humorous look at the claim by Jehovah's Witness leadership that they are living in a modern-day spiritual paradise. I'm your host here, a sick one, but also a former elder ministerial servant and a kid raised as a Jehovah's Witness in the 70s and 80s. As I do, a quick warning, we try to have some fun here, we try to heal. There's sarcasm, humor, and more, never meant to offend, especially this week. I will try not to sneeze in your face. I'm going to be taking a briefer walk through paradise this week due to still being sick. It is hanging on, and it just seems to keep going a lot like these last days. Just when you think it's going to end, nope. It appears I've got what they call an overlapping upper respiratory illness. See what I did there? And I can't help but feel overly spiritual about all of it. Evidently, there's that word, I'm prophetic. Needless to say, we're going to have a shorter run this week as it's all I can do to work with the Holy Spirit, otherwise known as antibiotics, to bring you some of my own thoughts on this month's Governing Body Update number 6, hosted by the charismatic Samuel Hurd, a noted advocate for females, their brain sizes being smaller than men's, and a man after Judge Joe Rutherford's heart. Imagine the fun they will have looking at now, so awkward, genderless former women that will be with them in heaven, and reliving how both of them took shots at women in public speaking venues, including the judge calling you ladies a stack of bones and a hank of hair in a talk in, you remember, St. Louis, Missouri in 1941. I'm sure they're going to have laughs all around, even by other spirit creatures who would have normally been offended by that at one time due to their human existence as women, but no more. No more, according to Jehovah's Witnesses. Those ladies are now genderless and on par with the fellas, invisible and floating in space, judging the rest of us lowly humans. I can just see them elbowing each other. Remember when? But back to Mr. Hurd. Yes, Samuel Hurd. He looks rather dapper this month, but almost drugged up, in my opinion. He looks like maybe he's taking the NyQuil I've been taking. I'm trying to figure out why they would put him in front of the camera at all when they have 10 other guys to choose from on the governing body. I don't get it. It seems a little odd between him and Garrett Loesch. Maybe they just retire them from televangelism. I don't know. He's very elderly, and he has a very slow, deliberate delivery, even as he reads the entire talk off of the teleprompter that is clearly in front of him off camera. And I gotta tell you, yes, I laughed. Remember when Jesus said this? At Luke chapter 6 and verse 45 of the New World Translation, Jesus said, quote, "A good man brings good out of the good treasure of his heart, but a wicked man brings what is wicked out of his wicked treasure, for out of the heart's abundance his mouth speaks." End quote. Yes, with a good man, he speaks right from the heart, according to Jesus. But who needs to do that when you're leading all of mankind during the last days and have a writing committee as well as modern technology where you can read a predetermined script verbatim right into a camera? Yep, you're going to see it this month during the update. And look, like almost everything in this organization, absolutely nothing about this update feels organic, natural, or dare I say it, from Samuel Hurd's heart. It's all pre-designed messaging where they prop up the elderly future king priest Hurd to read to us from his easy chair behind the desk. sort of like their king, Jesus Christ, did during the Sermon on the Mount. You remember. No word on how they got the electricity for Jesus' teleprompter during the sermon, but still, here we are, folks. Here we are. And as you can tell, I'm punchy, I'm drunk on NyQuil, antibiotics, and a lack of sleep. So bear with me, or now's the time to turn off this podcast. Brother Hurd begins this month by saying, "We are happy to share some encouraging updates with you." I sat up straight. Did they burn the Shepherd the Flock of God book? Did they discover new light proving Jesus does care about child safety? Did they cease construction on their movie studio in order to use the funding to feed and give clean water to those in developing countries? Is the King of the North now identified as Jon Snow? Or maybe millions now living will overlap with millions more? I don't know. I was so excited to hear this encouraging good news, but well, none of the above. His encouraging updates are all about their conventions, two of which took place in Zimbabwe and one in Sri Lanka, where he claims the combined peak attendance was over 64,000 people at these three locations, where then 1,330 people were baptized into Jehovah's Witnesses. What encouraging news indeed. But as usual, if you're like me and you like comparing numbers, consider this about this ultra-encouraging set of stats. The current population of Zimbabwe is 17,024,263 people. The population of Sri Lanka is a whopping 23.2 million people. Wow. 3 conventions. What this means in numbers is truly encouraging. It means after decades and decades and billions of pages of publications and online JW broadcasts and more, has resulted in 0.003325% of the population of both countries dedicating themselves to the organization of Jehovah's Witnesses. Pretty small number. And with seconds left in this system of things, am I the only one who remembers when this organization claimed that Jehovah was speeding this all up in order to, save lives? From the Watchtower of March 1st, 1985, pages 21 and 22, we are told, quote, Jehovah adds a third part to his promise. I myself, Jehovah, shall speed it up in its own time. As we stand at the brink of the great tribulation, we're at the brink, folks. The time for this is now. The rapid acceleration of the kingdom work during the past 2 years bears this out. 1985. Quote, this speeding up is to be observed earthwide. Our beloved King Jesus Christ will continue to speed it up as the kingdom proclamation moves on towards its climax. End quote. 1985. Then again in the Watchtower of July 15th, 1988, page 15, we're told, quote, Jehovah is now speeding up the ingathering of sheep-like ones, and the momentum of this joyous ingathering will yet grow, end quote. Yeah, by 0.003325% in Zimbabwe and Sri Lanka. But then finally, the Watchtower of January 15th of 1996, page 11, we're told, quote, thus the prophecy recorded at Isaiah 60:22 is proving true. That time is now. End quote, 1996, Jehovah and all things speed. And again, for the folks who like numbers, the same God that created light, which moves at a speed of 670,616,629 miles per hour, he knows a thing or two about speed. He knows it. So I have a question. Is saving something more valuable, human souls made in his image, at the rate of 0.003325% in countries with over 40 million people? Is that speeding things up? Is that speeding things up when they're facing a mass genocide any second now? So far, King Herd and Governing Body Update number 6 is really providing some encouraging updates. But he doesn't stop there. We have some very important new light. He didn't call it that, but I will, where King Herd says the term special conventions, wait for it, will be replaced by the term international conventions. Wow! This is a very serious development. Why? We're not sure. My first thought was, and? But he goes on to explain that they will be hosting 19 international conventions, the new light being it's no longer called special conventions, around the world in 2026. New light indeed. He continues with the comment, quote, delegates will enjoy sharing in the field ministry, end quote, for a moment. Oh, yes. A very enjoyable activity indeed, especially in countries where you can get killed for it or thrown in prison. Still waiting for updates on that sister in Eritrea from earlier this year. No updates in this one. But back to the quote, they'll enjoy sharing in the field ministry and associating with local brothers and sisters and taking part in other activities, end quote. This introduction, the only thing that caught my eye was that comment. What other activities? What other activities? Will there be alcohol involved? Look, I'm punchy. But this is the update. Then he gets to something that is sure to interest anyone who is counting down the seconds to Armageddon. He turns his attention to saying, quote, in August 2025, a new visitor center was opened at the Central Europe branch office located in Schilter, Germany, end quote. Wow. We're then whisked away to a new museum whose entire highlight and premise is a historical look at the history of the Bible in the country of Germany. We see video rolls of people mesmerized by examples of the Bible in Latin. And I have to add, as I watch this, never once questioning how that impacted its translation from, Hebrew, Greek, or Aramaic. Only then moved along to how the local media covered the museum's opening and called it all very, as Sam Hurd says, educational. Oddly, as I watched this segment with the video of the museum and the different Bibles, there's no mention that Jehovah, in one of the strangest pieces or decisions he's ever made, he actually asked false religion to collect and compile his book, the Bible. That's a fact. Even Jehovah's Witnesses admit this. No mention of how Satan did a knock-up job collecting the Bible for Jehovah, choosing which books went into it and why some books were chosen and others were left out. Thomas, Enoch, you didn't make the cut. But perhaps my favorite oversight is how they fail to mention how false religion felt, mostly Catholicism, by the way, felt about compiling a book that was all about Jehovah's Witnesses anyway, and how the leadership of Jehovah's Witnesses would, gosh, the ending of the book is something, would eventually kill, destroy, burn, maim, and more the very religions Jehovah actually asked to collect his personal communication to mankind. Am I the only one? I'm sure they read the Bible and know all about Babylon the Great, right? Any Jehovah's Witness knows Babylon the Great's the worst thing in the world next to an apostate. They're kind of in the same spot. And never during this museum tour by Samuel Hurd is it ever mentioned that the Bible itself, Jehovah's most important communication to Jehovah's Witnesses, was collected by false religion, led by, Satan. But I'm sure they cover that in the museum, right? I gotta tell you, they didn't show any video roll of it. One of my many questions for Jehovah on all things the Bible and its history: why did you have the bad guys collect your letter that you wanted only Jehovah's Witnesses to have? Yeah, and by the way, how did they feel about the ending of the book they collected where you kill them? Here we are, governing body update number 6 and a punchy podcast host. Check your brain at the door. Brother Hurd then reappears to remind us how important the Bible is. And it's for people that are conscious of their spiritual need. He asks the audience what it means to be conscious of our spiritual need, then points to the original Greek to say it's like being a beggar. He then describes a beggar in rags, crouched on a street corner, weak and hungry, begging for help. At this point, a disclaimer: I don't want you to think that this is any kind of comparison to a Jehovah's Witness book cart begging for money, okay? This is a beggar. We all must be like beggars, my friends. I'll give you one guess where Sam Hurd's talk is going. He reads Matthew 15:22 through 28, complete with some very weird voice inflections for women. The part where women are in the verse, he tries to sound like a woman. It's very weird. The apostles get a different voice inflection and so much more. Go watch. Incidentally, I was actually really excited that Sam Hurd was highlighting Matthew 15 because it's this chapter of the Bible that I personally love to use when Jehovah's Witnesses bring up anything about disfellowshipping, or when they shun those that just choose to leave the religion. We call them apostates. Oh yeah, Matthew 15 and apostates. What's the connection? You might remember, while she is begging Jesus for help, this being a Phoenician woman, as Sam explains in the video, he confirms, that being Jesus, that he only speaks to, this is awkward, Jesus confirms he only speaks to apostates. That's his one and only audience. I take you to verse 24 of Matthew 15, highlighted by Sam Hurd of the governing body, where he says, quote, "He answered, I was not sent to anyone except to the lost sheep of the house of Israel." End quote. Would you look at that? Jesus Christ, currently King of Jehovah's Witnesses, only came to earth to speak with apostate Jews. Yeah, I didn't say it, Jesus did. And I had to find myself wondering if King Hurd is connecting any of the dots here, as he wants us to be conscious of our spiritual need and points to Matthew 15. My conclusion was, I don't think he gets it. And it's all very shocking when you consider what he says next, that this woman in the account dared to approach Jesus, and she was a Gentile, a Phoenician. And Jesus then reiterates to this woman that he is only on earth to speak to apostates. Sam, have you and the 10 other feathers, have you considered this on a little deeper level? No? Nonetheless, Sam rambles on about her faith, her persistence and humility, just like, as he says, a dog licking up crumbs. If you want to see why he says this, please go read Matthew 15, and you'll have a deeper understanding. She's willing to lick up the crumbs, and she's not an apostate, so she came to Jesus. The talk continues and is every bit equally insulting throughout the entire thing. I don't have the voice to give it to you. But I have to believe that most Jehovah's Witnesses just don't watch these governing body updates. I think it's the older generations. I really do. Older generations, and ironically people like me and the apostate nation out here. I don't think they're watching this. Brother Hurd speaks to everyone like they're 8 years old throughout this entire thing. It's brutal. I gotta believe they might be trying to retire Stephen Lett, Garrett Loesch, and now Sam Hurd. These are swan songs. I've got to believe in 2026 it's going to be the young guys, Mark Sanderson, Jody Jettley, Gage Fleagle. It's going to be the younger guys. But Sam Hurd is getting his moment, and he goes to the Apostle Peter next and says we all need to be like him when there are things we don't understand, that, as he says, we must develop an appetite for solid spiritual food, just like the Apostle Peter. And I sat there wondering where we would find such deep spiritual food. And I immediately thought, King Priest Hurd here can't be talking about what he and his 10 best friends are providing, can he? He can't consider that appetite for solid spiritual food, can he? Jehovah's Witnesses, at the time of this recording, are currently studying the Child's Book, Lessons You Can Learn from the Bible, a modern version of the My Book of Bible Stories that many in my generation continue to bring up in therapy every week. Imagine dragging your family to the Kingdom Hall after a long workday or a day at school to be told, as he's insinuating in this update, that you're dining on solid spiritual food that was prepared just for you and me, dear listener, with the following instruction from the book, Lessons You Can Learn from the Bible, opening pages, a letter from the governing body, which says this, quote, "For the most part, this book has been prepared with children in mind. However, it can also be used to help adults who desire to learn more about the Bible. And since the Bible is a book for everyone, no doubt all of us will benefit from reviewing its lessons, which can help us to be truly happy." End quote. Well, it's for children? Yeah. You've been losing your mind all week at work. Your stress level is through the roof. You're staving off exhaustion, and the kids are acting up and don't even want to be there. But as King Hurd says in the update, you must develop an appetite for solid spiritual food, just like Peter. And I can't help but share with you, because I don't have much going this week, here is a sampling of what a Jehovah's Witness can intellectually feast on at a meeting this week at the Kingdom Hall. And as you might suspect, I immediately went to this book, Lessons You Can Learn from the Bible, lesson number 5, A Spiritual Feast in My Mind Like No Other. You see, I've developed a craving for spiritual food, as King Herd encouraged me to do, and I'm pounding the table, ready to eat spiritually. And lesson 5 of Lessons You Can Learn from the Bible serves me up this. Quote, in time, there came to be many people on the earth. Most of them were bad. Even some of the angels in heaven became bad. They left their home in heaven and came down to earth. Do you know why they did that? So that they could take on human bodies and marry women. The angels and the women had sons together. Those sons grew up to be very strong and became bullies. They hurt people. Jehovah could not let those things continue to happen, so he decided to destroy the bad people in a flood. But there was a man who was different. He loved Jehovah. His name was Noah. He had a wife and 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, and each of his sons had a wife. End quote for a moment. We don't need to know their names. Back to the book, quote, Jehovah told Noah to build a big ark so that he and his family could survive the flood. An ark is a huge box that can float on water. Jehovah also told Noah to bring many animals inside the ark so that they could survive too. End quote. Many animals, or the entire animal kingdom, insect kingdom, plants, and more, not mentioned here in this solid spiritual food. And listen, as the governing body update is encouraging us to develop that appetite, you're just sitting at the Kingdom Hall trying to figure out how to pay bills this month, or maybe you're sick, battling an illness. You're hitting a rough patch in your relationship or marriage. The kids are mad at you. They're teenagers and they hate your guts. And you're wondering how long generations are going to keep overlapping. But alas, here you are. You drove to the Kingdom Hall, and as Brother Herd says in the update, faithful, humble, and persistent, that's a direct quote, to be fed spiritually, and he's giving you baby food. Yeah, he whipped out a jar of Gerber. You're a brother sitting there, tired, but with a few brain cells left, and you get why angels wanted women, enough said. But then you begin wondering why you as an adult have developed that solid appetite, as the update says, reviewing a story that you've known since you were maybe 4 years old. And why exactly, as you sit there, did Jehovah ever let his kids associate with worldly kids? You got perfect angels and you got imperfect human females, and Jehovah just let them commingle? Didn't he have a say in any of this? He just let them? I mean, I'm sitting here at the meeting tonight, and I just told my kid they can't be on the student council or play football or sports. But Jehovah let his perfect, non-junk wielding angels go to the school dance with an imperfect creature in the neighborhood? And he just let them? Not even covered in this spiritual feast you're serving up tonight? I've been craving answers. And the fact that Noah dodged Mrs. Noah's sexual advances for 500 years, I got so many questions. You see, I came to the Kingdom Hall tonight exhausted. I can't even think about wrestling my wife tonight. I guess I'm a lot like Noah, but at least I'm humble, faithful, and persistent, according to King Sam Herd. The fact that they roll this man out in front of a camera to read from a teleprompter and ironically tell us to be craving anything and everything that the governing body is feeding us, it's just become something to behold. It's been said so many times by me and so many others, It's so insulting to your intelligence, but here we are. This is a governing body update. It's on par in the last days with Jesus rolling out to a crowd with things he feels they need to know. And even as they serve up a children's story at the midweek meetings, yeah, we're expected to crave another round of it. But at least in lesson number 6, I have to go there, I'm sorry, we're reminded of this very important, solid piece of spiritual food. Quote, Jehovah was happy with this offering. He promised that he would never again destroy everything on the earth in a flood. As a sign of that promise, he made the first rainbow appear in the sky. Have you ever seen a rainbow? End quote. Apologies, I'm stifling back the upper respiratory hacking. Oh yes, Brother Samuel Hurd. Are you really sure you want Jehovah's Witnesses feeding on this stuff? I can eat a lot of pizza pockets, lots of bags of potato chips, and lots of cartons of ice cream, and all of that sounds a lot healthier than telling grown adults there was never any rainbows before Noah got off the ark. Look, Sam, and the writers of lessons you can learn from the Bible, I'm pretty sure sunlight and water droplets were around long before Noah got off the ark, killed the very animals he saved, ended up getting naked, drunk, and cursed his son. Okay? I know it's hard to believe, but not nearly as hard to believe that God decided to kill his own kids because he couldn't control the invisible ones that were living in his own house, or that a 500-year-old man happened upon a couple of lions and they followed him thousands of miles back to his ark and climbed on board. Deep spiritual food, according to Sam Hurd, currently being served up at the kingdom halls of Jehovah's Witnesses. Seriously, it must be so much easier to just be a non-thinking human being. Just non-thinking. Because I just sat here watching this episode, which was really boring, this update, and thought, what is wrong with me? I immediately went to this Noah thing. It's their book. This is the food? Jehovah's Witnesses in 2025 are desperate for encouragement to just keep going on the self-inflicted hamster wheel built by these men. And this guy rolls up with a teleprompter and he's got nothing new. They still try to leverage a book everyone has. It's in the side table at your local Holiday Inn, and point to ancient characters telling them to be just like that person. And as this governing body update number 6 says, we should, as he said, crave it. Like the Apostle Peter, we should crave it. But he goes on to prove the point by moving on from craving spiritual food by taking us to, oh no, no. Did he do? He takes us to King David. Yeah. He reads King David's words at Psalms 27:5 about being concealed from calamity and protected in Jehovah's tent. But he then goes on to explain that while Jehovah will conceal us like David, he won't conceal us from our own poor decisions. Wait a minute, I'm a thinking person. I'm in the audience at the Kingdom Hall. I'm watching this update. Wait a minute, are you using David as an example of someone who never made poor decisions, or how you won't be concealed from your own poor decisions? King David, are you sure? Wait a minute here, Brother Hurd. Are you telling Jehovah's Witnesses that King David, by means of this verse, faced the consequences of his own poor decisions? I want to laugh, but I'll start choking. Brother Hurd, have you read the Bible? Do you know who King David is? Look, as someone who has OCD, I'm not proud of repeating myself. I know I do it here. We've covered King David in the past, but is there a worse example of someone who literally got away with murder, literally, who had zero consequences than King David? A Jehovah's Witness teenager can't get away with a heavy makeout session where his hands roam on a girl after school or attend a party on a Friday night. Two married Jehovah's Witness adults aren't free to do what they want in the privacy of their own bedroom. You only recently gave adult Jehovah's Witnesses the permission to grow hair in places and out of any egregious mistake they might make in just wanting to have higher education as in their future. But you're on camera, rolling out King David again to show what happens when you make poor decisions and how Jehovah won't keep you from the consequences. It's almost as if these king priests aren't even familiar with their Bible. King David is arguably one of the most polarizing characters in the entire Holy Book. It's in print. He killed women. He killed children. He killed babies. He killed animals. When he numbered his troops, he let Jehovah kill a bunch of innocent people who had nothing to do with counting the troops, while King David just kept on living. He had Uriah killed when he wanted to roll around in the sack with his wife Bathsheba, and then when the resulting pregnancy and the baby died because Jehovah killed it, David simply changed his pants and went to dinner. It's in the Bible. He caused division between Saul and his son Jonathan. And let's not forget one of his most stellar moments found at 1 Kings chapter 1, verses 1 through 4 of the New World Translation, where King David, consequences, and poor decisions all meet. He says, quote, "Now King David was old, advanced in years, and although they would cover him with garments, he could not get warm. So his servants said to him, 'Let a girl, a virgin, be found for my lord the king, and she will wait on the king as his nurse. She will lie in your arms, so that my lord the king may feel warm.' They searched throughout all the territory of Israel for a beautiful girl. And they found Abishag, the Shunammite, and brought her into the king. The girl was extremely beautiful, and she became the king's nurse and waited on him. But the king did not have sexual relations with her." End quote. Okay. Jehovah's Witnesses, old men or not, please do not try this at home. Public service announcement, do not try this at home. Look, your feet might be cold, but this isn't a good idea. Get a pair of socks. And I deeply appreciate you might say it fed my spiritual craving, as Brother Hurd is encouraging us here to do, that Jehovah made sure we all knew throughout all of space, time, history, and more that he couldn't stay warm with a nice homely girl. Oh, no. She had to be a young, hot, virgin girl. And she would lie in his arms in the bed, and he would never do anything naughty. King David, ladies and gentlemen, King David. This entire line of thinking doesn't even fit the talk. I'm convinced the guys on the writing committee are drinking when they write. Or did someone on the writing committee doze off when they wrote this up for Sam Hurd? You want to call out King David and make some very brief comment about Jehovah always protecting us, unless, of course, we do something stupid, then Jehovah won't. This organization is well over 100 years old, and let's be honest, they are clearly running out of ideas. King David faced no consequences, folks. Don't give me about trouble in his household with his kids, Absalom, and blah, blah. I studied King David thoroughly. King David got away with murder. Murder of tens of thousands, inappropriate relationships with women, the killing of animals, the destruction of families, sons and fathers. He didn't face consequences, folks. The Bible says he's a man after Jehovah's heart. These guys in New York don't understand what they're talking about. And they are running out of ideas. Governing body update number 6, ladies and gentlemen. Sam Hurd wraps up this part of the talk by telling everyone that is having a hard time, that have, of course, not made a poor decision, to just turn to Jehovah in prayer. He always answers his people. And yeah, I can hear the collective groan. He makes the bold statement that we are all grateful to Jehovah for his spiritual food, clothing, and shelter, and summarizes by saying, thanks to Jehovah, we have everything we need to survive, end quote. He makes the comment that we have everything we need to survive. Even with the swirling devastation regarding child safety issues in this organization, some of which will be watching this update. There's just no shame in these men. I know that's not saying much. We all know there's no shame in them. And even if you're a loyal Jehovah's Witness, these types of comments, can only go two ways. There's only two facts here. Sam Hurd is either lying, or Jehovah himself is an impotent God that doesn't care about kids or families or marriages, because he doesn't answer those prayers. He might have a fancy new Bible museum in Germany, thanks for the tour, but he chooses not to protect children. There is simply no way to justify the absurdity of this organization anymore, and I know I'm repeating myself. What else do I have to say? In what is one of the most boring governing body updates ever, future King Priest Samuel Hurd throws his own God right under the bus. He provides all spiritual food, clothing, and shelter, as he says, but he also allows children to be harmed at this very hour inside his organization. It's so incredibly insulting, and I just don't know, even for those dyed-in-the-wool, sunk-cost fallacy, brainwashed, whatever you want to say, Jehovah's Witnesses, can sit and listen to these kinds of comments, and just not walk away going, what the hell am I a part of? He wraps up this update, as will I right now, by telling us that they're excited to announce a new song based on Matthew 5:3. It will be song number 162, and its title is My Spiritual Need. And then the update literally, abruptly ends with King Hurd's assurance that they all love us very, very much. And so ends governing body update number 6. And if this is the spiritual food we're supposed to be craving, as he mentions in this update, this was like eating cheese and crackers. There was no substance to this. Can you at least throw in some nice red wine? No. It was a throwaway update. It was a very boring, anticlimactic message from the governing body. And I'm here to tell you, I think I may know why. We have in just days the annual meeting of Jehovah's Witnesses. It's my belief they're likely saving all the good stuff for the most important meeting of the year. I think Brother Hurd was warming up the crowd like a good opening act. He had lots of leftovers to tell us about this month. Hey, develop that deep, solid, spiritual appetite. By the way, here's some chicken nuggets to hold you over. And he likened it all to spiritual food, clothes, and shelter. And who would reject the basic necessities of life? Things like food, clothes, and shelter, right? Right. It's all a mind game. It's all a setup. And it's my belief that he is planting the initial seeds for whatever is coming this weekend. And let's be honest, the past 2 years, including each of these governing body updates, have been nothing more than calculated messaging around the religion's rebranding efforts. We all know it by now. They're throwing the masses any bone they can dig up. They can give them college, facial hair, pants, 21-year-old elders, toasting, and so much more. They're throwing them snacks. So this leads me up to my final question. What do you think is coming at the 2025 annual meeting? I have to be honest, by the time this episode airs, we'll all have the answers. It'll be hosted and done. But at the time of this recording, I'm working my way through pneumonia. Frankly, I have zero energy or brain space, and I decided it was still fun to add my own predictions, so here they are. And we will soon know whether I was Nostradamus, I was blessed with my own brand of Holy Spirit, or I was just plain stupid, or maybe using common sense. But here's mine. I got 3 or 4. Here's one. I predict there's going to be a talk at the annual meeting on your conscience. I complete with a peek back at some ancient Bible character, I guess they already used King David, who had to make a judgment call somewhere in their life. Why? Because they're doing everything they can to limit any legal liability to the organization for any decisions or actions made by a Jehovah's Witness. I think the conscience is going to become a thing again. Bank it. I just really believe that. For years, we haven't even talked about it. I think it's going to start to come to the forefront again. The conscience, how to develop it, how to use it. That's one of my predictions. One of those things that I believe fall into that bucket, I think I'm probably not alone on this, is birthdays. I think birthdays are up. They're next. I don't think they're going to completely walk back everything they've said about birthdays and then encourage everyone to go out and get a cake and candles and throw a party. They'll stop short of that. But I do believe they will share wildly vague wording on birthdays, just kind of being up to your own conscience. It's up to each individual. I really think they're up next. I also think we're going to hear about money. Does that shock you? Frankly, they need it. This update alone featured a new museum. You might remember, after all, when Jesus built and had that Old Testament museum in Jerusalem. Remember that? Remember when he had that big debut? And the apostles, of course, updated the museum to be more Gentile-friendly as time went on. Remember that? Jesus praised poor widows for parting with their cash. And I got to tell you, I expect the annual meeting to feature another round of encouragement on your donations. Frankly, folks, museums and movie studios aren't cheap. Did I say that out loud? Movie studios and museums. For us older J-dubs, or ex-J-dubs rather, is this happening? We couldn't even get a cheese Danish. They'd run out. At lunchtime, we had to eat the apple Danish. Warm Shasta soda, I'll trade you my pudding. Now they're building museums and movie studios. There's going to be some cash messaging. Cash. It's needed. And then finally, I think there's going to be some sort of insinuation or mention of new governing body members. I predict they're going to go for the even 12. You know, like the first governing body, otherwise known as Jesus' apostles, who ironically wouldn't appoint Paul, despite Jesus choosing Paul to write more books of the Bible than anyone else. Yeah, he didn't get an appointment to the governing body, that Paul guy, but he did write the majority of the Bible, so there's that. Don't let common sense get in the way. I have more predictions, but let's see what happens. By the time you listen to this, thank you for being here and listening to this craziness. New light will have been bestowed on mankind, and it's such a mysterious thing. As for now, I'll wait in eager anticipation of what Jesus has in store as we close out year 111 of the last days that never seem to end. Until then, my friends, thank you for putting up with me. I'm going to go take some NyQuil. There's a free sponsorship plug there. And I'm going back under the blankets. Wherever you may be, enjoy this illustrious weekend. Take your vitamins and be well.